Hey everyone, so in this segment we'll be talking about why, and this is morbid really, why blacks die first. And I know it's a little jarring, but I'll explain in a minute. It's very important for us to understand that black people and white people don't have the same genetics, same way the bodies respond to things that concern the heart health. Again, we're in the series of cardiovascular health, and you might want to catch a few segments that have come in the past. Why do black people die first, or why are they more susceptible? And you really don't have to look too far. You don't have to be a cardiologist, you don't have to be an epidemiologist to know that the rates and the statistics skew in favor of black people having more of hypertension, diabetes, kidney problems, and the likes. And the question in my mind has always been why. And some explanations have been, well, you know, the lifestyle in the United States, black people tend to eat more of the bad food and white people don't. And that didn't work for me, because in Nigeria, we have people who don't eat the saturated fats or the processed foods, and yet they still have a lot of hypertension and diabetes. So the question to me was why? Again, here's a statistic. Every year, Americans suffer more than 1.5 million heart attacks and strokes. Nearly 44%, think about that, 44% of African American men and 48% of African American women, so there's more amongst women than men, have some form of cardiovascular disease that includes heart disease or heart attacks and strokes. And this is from the Centers for Disease Control. Why is that so? You may be thinking, well, this is in America. Well, let me show you some other statistics. The top 5 leading causes of death in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, we used to think that it's just about tropical diseases, so that's why we tend to have the shorter lifespans. Now, the top 5, this is 2015, so not too long ago. Top 5, lower respiratory tract infections. Number 2, HIV/AIDS. Number 3, diarrheal diseases. But think about this. Number 4 is strokes, and number 5, heart disease. So stroke is even above heart disease. The top 5 causes of death. This is the first time they're getting to that level. So the question is, again, why? And in this slide, we're going to look at some of the reasons for that. And I kind of divide them into personal or internal, and then the other one being environmental or external. So personal means no matter where the person is, this is what happens. Environmental, external, we're obviously referring to our environment, the tropical environment. I mean, we have mosquitoes here, for instance. The heat is a lot here compared to other parts of the world. So it's not a very sharp divide, because some kind of flow into each other. But the problems are clear. And I'm going to, if you take a look at the slide, I'm going to point at a couple of them on either side. One of them is our diet. Now, if you're in Nigeria and you live in Nigeria, diet plays a huge role, because a lot of our foods tend to skew in terms of having higher carbohydrate levels. I'll probably explain why that is so, and why that is a problem in the future. Another thing are our genes, and I'm going to explain that in some time, but just be aware, because you are black, because you have black skin, your blood vessels tend to get diseased much more quickly or more readily than a white person's own. On the external aspect, we've talked about infections. We have a lot more infections, malaria and other things, and those tend to lay a burden on the human body. And so when you deal with heart disease, we take a lot of medication. These things can affect your heart. The other thing that I really want to point out is the healthcare system. We don't have as developed a healthcare system in Nigeria, for instance, as in the US. If someone has a heart attack, God forbid, let's hope it doesn't happen to you or a loved one, but if someone has a heart attack or a stroke, there isn't a number, like a 911 number, that person can call and have an ambulance appear within an hour. It's just not available. So most people have to call their neighbors, call their relatives, and as quickly as possible get to the hospital. And even when they get to the hospital, care is not taken. And this is not an indictment, but this is just a fact. This is what happens. Care, the standard of care is not prompt enough to deal with a heart attack and stroke. And the window period when someone has a heart attack is about 6 hours to really to really intervene, for the doctors and medical professionals to intervene and reverse the damage, or to prevent the damage that's going to further damage to the blood vessels or to the heart and the brain. That is not available as it should. And so these two factors, well, these two areas, personal and environmental or external, both contribute to why black people tend to have more heart attacks and more strokes than white people do. And we'll be talking about some of this in the future. Thank you.